Guys, my name is Vanessa and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date's October 8th, 2017, and today I want to talk about my least favorite question, which is a super important question. And the question is, how did I get sober? I've had a couple of friends reach out to me this week that are not in AA, but people that I used to drink with or whatever. They're asking me, like, how did you get through this? I know that you've been in similar situations. Like, how did you overcome? And, what can you tell me about how to get sober? I've been in AA for 3 years now. When you're getting like a token or something to celebrate a milestone, they'll ask you, tell us how you did it. And you can go in front of everybody there. I got unblocked and now I feel the sunlight of the spirit and I'm doing God's will and not my will and blah, blah, blah. And you can speak this whole different language because the people in the room all understand the concept of alcoholism as a three-part disease. It's its own language, right? The thing is that when somebody outside of the rooms of AA asks me this question, and it's because something bad just happens to them, I know that, I don't know, but my assumption is that they are not actually telling me that they want to get sober. They're telling me that the repercussions or the consequences of their actions when they're using is undesirable in their life. And so they would like to find some kind of way to stop that. Being in recovery is not the same as being sober. And you can be an awful person and not have a job of alcohol or drugs in you. I have lived that and I've been through that and I've witnessed that, and it wasn't what I wanted. But just know that if you're in either of those situations, if the reason that you're trying to get sober is because your external circumstances are annoying to you, I think you need to look for a better reason to get sober and to find recovery, because that's not going to do it, basically. Okay. So why did I get into recovery? The reason was because I don't have the words to describe the level of hopelessness that I was in. Basically, I had no hope in things ever getting better. I didn't trust my thoughts. I didn't trust my belief system. I didn't trust people around me. I didn't trust my family. I didn't trust the world. I didn't trust society. I didn't trust anything. Being in that level of disillusionment and that level of despair, I can literally remember laying in bed trying to drink myself to death, just being so annoyed that my body was still requiring oxygen. Like, I was just so angry that I was still breathing. Like, if that doesn't make sense to you, like, God bless you that you have never felt that level of like a hatred for being alive. It wasn't because I had gotten 3 DUIs. It wasn't because I went to jail. It wasn't because I was in rehab. It wasn't because, boyfriends had dumped me or I had dumped them. It wasn't because my family was like super disappointed in me constantly. It wasn't because of any of that. It was because finally I had reached this part within myself where I was like, there is nowhere to go from here. To say that I was suicidal is like the understatement of forever. Like, couldn't even fathom having ever had a purpose. That's a really lonely and desolate and dark place to be. So I basically was like, I need to either die or try something different. And God instilled in me this very deep stubbornness. Friends would be like kind to me and be like, call it persistence. Let's call it persistence. It's not persistence, it's stubbornness, because it came from a self-centered place. It wasn't like I was doing something because I actually wanted to improve. I was doing it from a place of pride and ego because I didn't want to be like, alcoholism beat me. Like, I couldn't fathom that being the way that I actually like left this world. So I was like, I'm going to try something different. And the only reason that I was even open to doing AA, because let's face it, nobody wants to end up in AA. That's not like a really cool place to hang out and like, be part of your identity. The only reason that I was willing to even listen is because I remember somebody saying that like, part of the problem with alcoholics or addicts in general is like, we grow up and we develop this like operating system that now our entire world is being filtered through. And it's like, yeah, I have this operating system from 1994 when I had some trauma, but now I'm in 2014 and I'm still operating off that old operating system. How Can I take an actual like computer? If you had a computer from 1994 and you tried to boot it up right now, what do you think the result would be? Nothing's gonna happen. Nothing productive. You're not gonna get a lot done. And I kind of was now like understanding that I needed to like upgrade my operating system, and that was going to require a whole flushing of the old system, and it was a lot of work. um, so the way that I ended up doing that was by going through the 12 steps of AA, and I was really lucky, and I was really blessed to fall into the group of AA that I did. So I participated in the Big Book Awakening, which is a method of going through the 12 steps. It's an incredibly thorough process. So the first step takes 6 weeks if you do all your assignments on time. And it completely changed my life. Because I had been to AA meetings before and they didn't really do much for me. I didn't really get anything out of them except that everybody was hanging around being dry drunk and being super miserable in their sobriety, and that's not exactly what I was looking for. I can be miserable on my own, thanks. Um, so yeah, it was only until I had like lost the willingness to continue believing my own like delusions that I was like, okay, let me just be open to trying to figure something else out and replacing my operating system. And so I did, and gradually, very step by step. It was a very slow process. I did the first step 3 times, and um, like I said, it takes 6 weeks each time, and it wasn't like I took to the first step and then would relapse and then do it all over again. It was just like throughout the time of being in the rooms, I've gone through that process 3 times, and each time I got something different out of it. And so, when I get asked this question, like, well, how did you do it? How'd you get sober? It's like, I'm figuring it out still. Like, I don't know. How am I staying sober? That's the real miracle. And that is all of a God. And yeah, I can take some credit for it because I put, my ass in a seat in a meeting. But the actual, it wouldn't have stuck if I hadn't seen the miracles that I got from doing the work and from following the suggestions. But it sounds so like delusional to just be like, oh, it's God, It's like when I'm sitting and I'm talking to somebody that's kicking methadone, and they're actually really begging for some kind of a solution. And I'm like, well, just pray and meditate for 10 minutes every morning. And it's like, it sounds ridiculous. Um, but it's what has worked. It sounds so unrelated to what is going on. But it's like, yeah, because everything that we're experiencing in our worlds are so distorted because we're operating on this old operating system that's no longer working for us. And so it's like, try something different. And the most magical, most freeing thing that ever happens during that process was that I was willing to look dumb. Like, I was willing to humiliate myself because I'd already done it in my using, right? So, like, why not do it for trying to be sober? And I was just willing to fail at this. Like, I had failed at so many other things. I'd been successful at a whole bunch of other things, but this was the one thing that I couldn't figure out how to be a decent human. And I was like desperate to figure it out. And I was willing to look stupid in the process. And that was super freeing to me. It was actually amazing. And I try to carry that with me every single day. And it's kind of what's inspired like this and my writing and everything. Like, I'm okay being wrong. And I'm okay looking like whatever every once in a while. Like, I lived so much of my life concerned about what other people thought of me that I built walls and walls and walls around me and layers of that wall so that you couldn't figure out who I was, so that I didn't even recognize myself after a while. And that's a really stifling and like claustrophobic place to be in, because then you're just kind of like stuck in like this image that you're trying to portray, and it's really hard when I'm feeling one thing and I'm acting out in another way. So being able to be just like completely transparent with people now, and if that looks crazy, then I hope they forgive me. Um, the truth is that my identity is rooted in what God thinks of me, and that's way more important, and that's really who I owe my ultimate everything to. So it's like, I might be making an unpopular choice sometimes, and like, not picking on the newcomer or whatever. I don't know, let's say that I'm the new kid, but I haven't been in school in like freaking decades. So, or like, you know, I don't know, just like humans engage in such strange social things that sometimes like saying, that doesn't feel like spiritually right for me could be perceived as one thing. Um, but it's like, it's taken me such a long time to gather any respect for myself and then be able to portray that and see how I treat other people. But it's made like all of the difference in my existence on this earth and in how I treat people. So it's like, but it wasn't like an overnight process. Like I had to like really, I wish I could like just share like how awful I felt to finally be open to maybe the possibility of like trying something different. Because when people come and they ask me that, and it's like they're asking me because they just got a DUI or because they got in a fight with their girlfriend, then I'm like, you can ask me, but whatever I tell you is not going to keep you sober. Like, it's only when you're really willing to let go of you being right all of the time that anything in your life is going to change. And that's kind of really the only thing that I can tell anybody. It's like you have to be willing to be wrong, and you have to be willing. And if sometimes it's like being wrong and like things are never going to get better. I'm never going to feel right. I'm never going to be happy. It's like there's a possibility that you're wrong. Be open to that. Or there's people that are like super entitled. I was really entitled, and I thought everybody owed me everything. I thought the world owed me something. And, being like super frustrated and resentful when I didn't get my way, I had to be open to the possibility that maybe I didn't deserve things to go my way. I mean, it sounds really simple, but it's like a very spiritual, like a spiritually resurrecting thing. Um, I don't know. I hope that makes sense to somebody, because I don't even know that it makes sense to me. But I know that like a year from now, my response will probably be different from whatever I just rambled on about now. And because I know that like a year ago, what I would have said would be completely different. And I think that that's a good sign, because I think that as long as I'm continuing, as long as anybody in recovery, and I mean recovery, I don't mean just being abstinent from any substance, because you can be abstinent, again, I can say this forever, you can be abstinent and like sober and still be a miserable human being. Like that's, there is because you want to hold on to your old ideals. You want to hold on to your fears that are, propelling these awful behaviors and in the treatment of other people, and in treatment of yourself. And that's disconnecting you from God. And I find my peace and my serenity in God. And in order to do that, I need to continue being on good terms with people and with myself in order to have that connection with God. And sometimes that means being wrong, and that means, being humbled and saying, I'm sorry, or saying like, I can see things your way. Honestly, I just kind of abandoned the concept of being right all the time. It's really not that magical, and yet it's the key to everything. Because once I was willing to let that go, I was willing to accept that God is always right, and that He always does have the answer, and that His will is always better than what my will is trying to determine for my life. And yeah, that was like 15 minutes of like, bleh. So I hope that was kind of helpful. Whatever. All right, I'm tired actually, so maybe I'll redo this someday. I just feel like whatever. Coppola is asleep, so he wants me to shut up. All right, bye.